The first page of the attachment lists your outstanding debt. That's the bonds that you've already issued that are currently outstanding. Each of those columns is a previous bond issue, and at the bottom is a description of what the project was. Column E, you'll notice is blank. That's because that's paid. The debt service on that is paid for by an offer of assistance that you get from the State School Facilities Construction Commission. That's what SFCC stands for. Follow to the far right. Your annual debt service for 2025 is $1,209,977. Stays pretty consistent at a little over $1.2 million down to 2038. Drops down to about 785,000 to 2044, where it ultimately rolls off. So before we can consider potentially issuing new bonds, we always have to keep in mind the bonds that you've already issued. One thing we also do on this page, we always try to keep our eye on is potentially refinancing a bond issue. Refinancing a bond issue is just like refinancing a mortgage. Essentially, interest rates have fallen to where they are lower than the bonds, the interest rates were on the bonds that you previously issued. Again, we constantly monitor this. None of your issues right now are in a position to be refinanced. It kind of sounds bad, but the good news is all that means is that you are already paying a below market interest rate, so it's kind of a good problem to have. If you flip to page 2, we're going to talk about the revenues that you have to pay for these projects. And the main discussion that I really want to have here and I want to start out with is capital projects are funded by what are referred to as restricted funds. And there will be building fund and the capital outlay fund, Fund 320 and Fund 310. Under statute, those funds can only be used for capital purposes. You can't use them for any instructional purposes. You can't use them for salaries. You can't use them to pay utilities. You can't use them to buy books. The only thing you're allowed to do with those funds are to pay capital projects and to pay debt service on bonds for projects that previously funded capital projects. The building fund's really two sources. There's a local chunk and then a chunk that comes from the state. Your local chunk is the local nickel. That's every state and district has column B. It's 5 cents of your property taxes that goes into the building fund. So when you set your tax rate each year, carve out 5 cents of that, and put that into the building fund. It's a local fund contribution into the building fund. Several years ago, the board elected to levy what's called a recallable nickel. Essentially, when you set your tax rate, you chose to add an additional 5 cents to it and dedicate that money also to the building fund. So you as a district, instead of having 5 cents going to the building fund, you have a total of 10. So column C is that second recallable nickel that goes into the building fund. Each of those for this fiscal year 25 brings in $751,160. FSPK stands for Facility Support Program Kentucky. That is, it encompasses things that are referred to as equalization. The idea behind that is that it's equalizing every district so that you have 150% of the statewide assessment per child in your building. So what they do is they go through and they calculate here when they set the budget, figure out the state's assessments, state's enrollment. They do the math and that generates a funding factor. And they say every district should have that amount per nickel, at least that amount in their building fund. And more, so you have to have at least that. So if you're a very, very high assessment district, you're potentially not going to get any FSPK, or you'll get a very little bit. For a district with lower assessments with a lot of kids, you'll get a lot of equalization funds. For this year, for 2025, your equalization FSPK is $12,949 in column D. That's equalizing column D, the first nickel. And then the advantage when you all levied that recallable nickel is the legislature chose to equalize callable nickels as well. So because you added that additional recallable nickel, you get an additional $12,949 in the state. So columns D and E are the money that comes from the state into your building fund. Columns B and C are the local funds that go into the building fund. Capital, column F is capital outlay. That is a little easier to explain. It's just $100 per student based on your average daily attendance. Again, it's a restricted fund used for capital purposes. When we use that to calculate the bond potential to put a plan financing together like this, you take 80% of that number, you leave a little bit of cushion in there, you have some revenue fluctuations going forward, you want to make sure you can still afford to pay debt service bonds. You'll also notice that these revenues are the same 25 through 2045. Again, that's a KP guideline. They basically tell us to take the current revenues and make an assumption that you're going to have these same revenues for 20 years. So when we determine if you can afford a project, we're not factoring in huge growth in assessments or anything like that. We're saying, okay, if you can afford it now, logically, you're going to be able to afford the debt payments for the next 20 years. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that again. So your total restricted funds, if you add your building fund, your capital outlay fund, it's column G, 1,629,174. Back out your payments that we talked about on the previous page. That's column H, and that gives you column I. That's essentially your local money that you have available to pay principal and interest on a new bond issue. See, it's kind of circled, roughly about a little over 400,000, down to 2039, jumps up to 840,000. 2044, and then jumps up to 1,616,000 in 2045. The reason you have that big jump is if you notice in column H, you don't have any current outstanding debt in 2045, so you really have all of your restricted funds available to pay debt on a new project. Columns J and K, I talked about, those are your SFCC offers of assistance. Essentially, that's a pledge by the state to agree to pay a certain amount towards a project that qualifies and meets their qualifications. Your 2020 offer was $43,262. Your most recent offer was $59,130. You'll get another offer of assistance in January. It'll come out every 2 years. You have 8 years to use it. You don't actually have this funding. When we do a bond issue that qualifies, we kind of break up the schedules. We say SFCC, you pay this much, district, you pay this much. We are not using these offers of assistance on the phase 2 project in high school, and that's because they don't meet that qualification. To meet the qualification, they have to be in the highest priority category in your facility plan. So the revenues that we're going to pay on this phase 2 bond issue are only your local revenues. You can't use those two SFCC offers. If you flip the page, the bond issue size for phase 2, $1,465,000. If you look at the bottom left corner, you can see the total amount of the bonds there. You'll notice these cut off in 2040. We actually are in a position where you only need to finance this for 15 years, and you can afford the payments, you can afford additional payments coming forward. Obviously, the advantage to doing that is when you finance something for 15 years, you get less interest than finance it for 20 years. Column F, that's just the total principal and interest on our $1,465,000 bond issue. You don't have an SFCC portion, so the local portion is all yours. We add the debt for this new phase 2 project to column A, which are your existing payments. So column I would be your new payments after the issuance of the phase 2 bonds. So you can see your payments have jumped roughly a little over $100,000. 2026, about $1,315,000. But if you recall, our total restricted revenues, column J, are $1,629,174. So we had more than sufficient funds to support the debt service on this project. The circle box to the far right, that is money that you would have left over going forward if, again, you had the exact same revenues for the next 20 years. It's a very, very conservative picture. Those revenues, you have a lot of options with. You can use them to cash fund projects if you want. You can also do what's called a capital fund request, which you all have done in the past. There are certain allowances to move some of this restricted funds back to the general fund to pay certain qualifying expenses. Things like property insurance you can do. If you have a project that's not on your facility plan, you're actually required to use general funds for those, but you can pay for it using these restricted funds via a capital fund request. So it's kind of a legal way to take advantage of the restricted nature of all these funds and be able to use them for general fund purposes. Those amounts over there are really kind of looking forward, potentially what we would next project. Really what we like to do is, after we issue these bonds, we'll know the rates. And the rates you see out here are just kind of estimated based on what we're seeing in the market. When we actually sell the bonds, we'll actually be able to set the final rates, and then at that point, we can calculate a bond potential kind of for what you have really for the next project. The last chart I just added because if you recall, your total restricted funds were $1,629,000. A little over 1.5 million of that comes from your maintenance. The vast majority of that is local property tax revenue. And as you can see, your assessments have consistently grown quite a bit. Big increase in assessment figures, 19.4%. But if you follow back, it grew 8.9% the year before, 5.2% the year before, 3% the year before. The only reason I'm showing you this is that, again, the bulk of your revenue is your local property taxes, and that's consistently growing. So it is unlikely if something were to happen down the road where your nickels had a catastrophic fall or something catastrophic, you should be able to continue to afford the debt service on this project, and again, be able to have revenues to look forward to your next project. So, just for everybody's in the crowds, that's part one of my 10-part presentation. It's going to have a
presentation available somewhere? Talking about.
I was told this.
You have questions regarding any speaker, please address your questions to the board. So, someone had a question? The information that you were inquiring about, I believe Ms. Klotzman said is online, is on our website. So that information is on our website.
Are there any questions?
I just had a question about House Bill 727. Sorry, question about House Bill 727 and what other opportunities can we request capital funds requests for? Like I've heard that we can request for technology or maintenance projects, things like that, but what extent is this that we can request for?
In the statute, it lays out you can request it for physical plan improvements, property insurance, bus purchases with either KISTA payments or actual purchase of the bus, technology improvements, and there's some quantifying features in that. I believe that's it. There's 4 categories.
Did that answer your question? Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Salisbury? Well, thank you for coming and explaining. Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is comments. And before we start, I'm going to read the board's policy on comments. The public and news media are permitted to attend all open meetings of the board. No person may be required to identify himself in order to attend any such meetings. Exception: the chairman may impose conditions upon attendance at a given meeting only if such conditions are required for the maintenance of order. Public comment period. Each regular meeting shall include a public comment period at least 15 minutes. Any board rules and policies regarding conduct during school board meetings shall apply during the public comment period. Persons wishing to address the board must register with the board secretary prior to the meeting. At the time of registration, the subject of the presentation shall be stated. Persons wishing to address the board must first be recognized by the chair. Speakers. The chairman may require the name and address of the speaker. The chairman may rule on the relevance of the topic to the board's agenda. The chairman may also establish time limits for speakers as may be required to order and to ensure the expedient conduct of the board's business. So we have nine speakers. So each speaker will be given 2 minutes.
Sorry, I did not put those for the back.
The first speaker is Amber Honest and Angst, and her subject is allocations, which I believe is on the board's agenda. So you may speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm alarmed by the proposed cuts and/or changes to vital student services, including behavior intervention, instructional assistance, counseling programs, content area teachers, and MTSS academic intervention teachers. While I certainly understand that we are in a place where change has to happen as we simply cannot continue to operate sustainably, I was astonished at the initial allocation proposal that so drastically cut out the services that directly impact the quality of education of our students, your children, and your grandchildren, this community's future. It is my professional and ethical obligation to do all that I can to advocate for these children who do not have a voice in this decision. Newport Independent Schools is in a financial crisis, but this is not the fault of our children. It is not the fault of our frontline educators, neither classified nor certified. This is as a direct result of lack of financial oversight provided at the highest level of district administration. Our children deserve better. They do not deserve to have an inequitable education forced upon them. I was disheartened at the previous meeting in which answers provided failed to submit any indication that a strategic focus on student need is what dictated the decision-making process of the current proposed allocations. I recognize that there is substantial nuance to this process. However, I believe that the board has an obligation to put our students' education at the forefront of the decision-making process, ensuring we have taken every avenue to cut spending and costs that will not directly impact our students. While I can only speak to my program with which I'm involved, I know that all 3 schools have provided rationales for many of the positions being cut, should you like to request them. To this end, I want to share with you some of the supports that Newport Schools Counseling Services are providing to our students. One such piece is implementing social emotional assessments for students with parental consent, which allows counselors to better gauge students' emotional and mental well-being. This data-driven approach has enabled staff to identify and support students who are struggling before they reach a crisis point. This year, in this building, 73% of your students scored at risk. Even with these interventions in place, we have conducted 62 threat assessments for students in this building who have made a threat to harm themselves or harm other people. While not all of these have resulted in substantial risk findings, many have, with many students hospitalized. Given the recent media attention surrounding the suicide crisis in Boone County, the cutting of supports for our counseling programs district-wide seems very short-sighted. While these numbers reflect NIS, I'm confident that my colleagues at NHS, NPS, and SOI are certainly supporting students in a similar fashion. This tiny snapshot showcases just one arena of the school counseling program that all 4 schools are implementing. While I'd love the opportunity to showcase more, time limits prevail. However, I'm happy to provide you with the rationale provided to our central office as to why 2 counselors should be allocated for NIS. I also stand here confidently that were you to ask our principal, she would tell you that she can't run our building effectively without 2 counselors. The need is too great. The stakes, our students' lives, are too high to risk it. Let me be clear. The decisions made by the board tonight are not just spilled milk to be wiped up as so cavalierly stated to you at the last meeting. I'm asking you to take a very active role in this budget process, ensuring that we have made every decision to cut everything possible before we cut what students need. Thank you.
Next on the list is Ms. Stewart.
Oh, is it you or me? Which one? Because there's two of us. Is it Kara?
Kara,
That's you, girl. That's all you.
Oh,
You can go, Chelsea. You can go first.
And her topic is the budget, which is,
Alex, I'll
Um,
change it to Alex.
no, it's the budget, we discussed the budget on the, so you're fine.
Hi, my name is Kara Stewart. I have a ninth grader at Newport High School. I also have a husband who teaches middle school in the high school. And I am pretty obsessed with Newport schools, so I want to start with that and say that we are all on the same page. I think in that way, that's why folks have shown up today. They care a whole lot. And I've spoken with some of you about that before, about how much I love Newport schools. I send my child here and I live in Covington. It's done other schools in the past, but I believe in the magic of Newport and in the smallness of Newport, and in the once a wildcat, always a wildcat of Newport. All of these things matter a lot to me, and I want to keep it that way. And I'm pretty nervous about what's going on right now. Whenever people started talking about we're in the hole, I thought, are you sure you read that right? Because all I could think was remembering a news article that I Googled and found from 2020 that we were 6 million up. And so it was pretty hard to sort of wrap my head around that. Like, well, what happened? Nobody seems to be able to answer what happened. So that's what I'm here to, I wanted to ask some questions, right? So what did happen? How did we go from being 6 million up? And I think everyone in this room wants to know that, to being in the hole. And I've heard a couple of people mention ESSER funds, which those ended last year. And I want to make sure that just what we already heard from the first speaker is what happens, that we focus on the people who are with the students, who are serving the students, and that there's been a holistic look at the budget before any decisions are being made. I think a lot of people in this room have reached out to me, a lot of parents, a lot of group texts that have reached out to me have said, why do the schools have to turn in their budgets before the central office does? And I've said, that doesn't make me feel terrified that there's still going to be fairness in that, but I understand why that would make me feel uncomfortable if I was somebody in a school district asking for that. And making sure that we're prioritizing who is serving students, and every dollar that is coming into this district is in service of students. And that includes just the arts, that includes all of the things. I mean, in the last decade, I've missed very few arts nights, very few theater shows, very few baseball games, football games, basketball games, you name it. My husband and I, all of them, which is why he's not here tonight, because he went to the basketball game. Congratulations, we can all cheer. The Wildcats advanced. I remember this before, but it was good. 69-43. Win over Bellevue. So now we'll play the winner of Highlands and CC. It is basketball season. So, and I love that about Newport. We've got great, even our baseball team. Love it. All right, I'm out of time. Well, I know you take your job seriously. You wouldn't have run for this office if you didn't take your job seriously. Everyone in this room expects you to do it.
Next is Ms. Bob Camp.
she will drop something. Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Robin Baumkamp, special education teacher at Newport Intermediate School. I'm here to talk today about the proposed cuts and their impact on the students for the 25-26 school year and the years that follow. Reductions of assistant staff positions, including guidance counselors, academic and behavioral interventionists, and instructional assistants, will result in significant negative impacts on student success. I want to remind everyone of Newport's vision. We envision a day when every student in Newport Independent Schools engages and thrives in educational excellence. Is it possible for every student in Newport to engage and thrive in educational excellence when the classroom environment itself is overcrowded, underfunded, and undersupported? These are questions we must ask ourselves as we navigate through these cuts. What is educational excellence? What is educational excellence?
Is it spending thousands of dollars for out-of-state travel to attend multiple conferences throughout the year that have yet to yield measurable improvements to student outcomes? Is educational excellence achieved when the district prioritizes projects like rebranding, a new logo, with matching stationery and decor, while classroom teachers struggle with limited resources, relying on decades-old furniture, hoping the old furniture holds up long enough to receive donations from our Amazon wish lists? Is educational excellence obtained by removing specially trained professionals who provide necessary academic and behavioral interventions, or by decreasing the number of guidance counselors in our buildings? Our guidance counselors are often the only trusted adults our students have to turn to. It doesn't take an educational epiphany to answer these questions. Staff on the front lines are struggling with limited resources provided. They navigate crowded classrooms, manage behavioral disruptions. We are really doing the best we can with the resources provided to us. Even in these difficult circumstances, we see progress. There is a lot of work to do to meet students' needs in our district, especially so when more than 70% of kindergartners are not kindergarten ready. This work is challenging but not impossible, especially when we have the appropriate supports in place that allow our talented, highly qualified educators to do what they do best, teach. We need more support, not less, for our student success. We are not requesting coffee, lunches, or a free t-shirt during the holiday season. We are asking for meaningful support and resources to meet the diverse needs of all learners. Recently, NTA learned that building principals provided Newport superintendent with data-driven recommendations outlining necessary cuts and vital staff required for student success. I urge the board carefully to review these documents before making any final decisions. Newport schools were about kids. It wasn't just a slogan, it was a mindset, a deeply held belief ingrained in every staff member. Have we strayed from that belief? Has educational excellence become an empty phrase, a hollow promise, contradicted by the decisions being made? True educational excellence is not merely about mission statements and buzzwords. Instead, it is about action. It focuses on ensuring every child in Newport has the support and resources necessary for success. Yet time and again, we have witnessed district resources being carelessly spent on instructional incentives, the latest being Dr. Dickey's educational epiphany, and before that, it was Larry Bell's powerful words. Initiatives are introduced haphazardly, only to be discarded for something new, yielding little to no measurable benefits for student outcomes. All the while, our classrooms are left without resources needed to make a real difference. We understand the financial difficulties facing the district, and we, the teachers, recognize that cuts must be made. We want to work collaboratively to find solutions. We will not stand by as decisions are made that undermine the success of our students. We hope to lend our voices to a more strategic approach, one that prioritizes student support and success. As we progress as a district, I urge the board to ask hard questions of district leadership. Madam Chair and the board, members of the board, it is critical that you demand transparency from district leaders. Seek out quantifiable data on how proposed expenditures will directly impact student outcomes. Do not simply take one person's word for it. Dig deeper. In closing, when we cut essential support services, our students suffer. Not just this year's students, but the generations to follow. The future of Newport's children depends on the choices made here. Please choose wisely. Thank you.
Next is Holly, and I hope I don't mess up your name, Macario.
Good news.
Hi, my name is Holly Macario Avila. I am a freshman at Newport High School. I am here today to tell you all about the decision to cut teachers for budget cuts is unacceptable. As a product from Newport school system, I think it is my right to speak on behalf of the classmates. First of all, I love Newport schools, and I am eternally grateful for the education I have received from the teachers. But some of the teachers you plan on cutting are teachers who have not only played a role in the kids' education and success, but also have built a foundation for kids who don't necessarily have that at home. These educators have dedicated their time for students during school hours and out of school hours. They have sacrificed their extra time to ensure we are able to succeed. I have always reached above and beyond for myself and also for the educators who have invested their time into me. I tried to score in top percentiles to show that their effort and time had a purpose. For example, I participate in a lot of things, some of these being FBLA, FCCLA, SDLP, wrestling, track and field, basketball, and many more extracurricular activities. These opportunities were given to me by educators because they want students to have the opportunity to succeed in sports or clubs to represent ourselves and our school. I understand we are currently $3.9 million in debt, but we need to find a way to get out of this situation, and in order to think about the students this way, cutting back on the educators we have in order to handle behavioral issues, intervention classes, and extracurricular activities not only is going to affect the staff, but also the students all around. We want to raise test scores, but we're cutting back on teachers who help raising students' knowledge in tested areas. We want to decrease behavioral issues, but we're cutting behavioral interventionists. All these cuts have negative effects that are going to affect all of us, especially in the classroom where the learning happens. An issue we have nationwide is the shortage of teachers in the education system. A study done by a nonprofit organization at the University of Chicago showed that fewer than 1 in 5 Americans would encourage a young person to become a K-12 teacher. According to an analysis from the labor market think tank ADP Research Institute, the supply of teaching applicants hasn't kept up with the demand. Research found that there is a staffing shortage for some time, but it has gotten worse since the COVID-19 pandemic. The state of Kentucky, as of March 19, 2024, has over 2,000 vacant teacher positions, which are increasing at a faster rate than ever before. As of the 2023-2024 school year, 45% of public schools in the U.S. say they are understaffed. The amount of faculty we have is the reason why students succeed. It's the reason why most children have a reason to come to school. It is the reason why there are some students who admire teachers and hope to become an educator one day. I admire all that you do, district and board members and the superintendent, but I advise you to rethink this decision. We want to succeed without having to come down to cutting educators. It's unfair and unjust. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Chelsea Stewart.
So I'm speaking on the budget. As a parent and an alumni, I graduated from Newport. For Miss Malone and Miss Covington, I went with both y'all's kids and grandkids together. Some of these teachers here actually taught me. I grew up with a lot of them. It's not fair. We can't do that to our children. I know both of you two have been here forever, and you guys will always put these kids first, and that's what you guys got to do now. These kids don't deserve a huge cut in their teachers. I put my kids in Newport because I love them. I love Newport. My grandparents put their whole life into Newport. They did anything and everything for Newport. I need you guys to step up and do what's right for these kids. And that's all.
Donovan Macario.
I'm Donovan Macario. I'm a junior at Newport High School, and I'm a part of the YSA program. And I just want to talk about the budget. I don't think it's right where we're cutting teachers and stuff. If we want to improve, as our district wants to improve our scores, you can see it on the board. It's not really something to be proud of. 3%, distinguished, all these things obvious. If we really want to increase our scores, why are we going to fire the people who are the only people that can increase our scores? Teachers do many different jobs than just teach. They're counselors. They're parents to people. There are so many other things, and if you cut them, the kids are not going to want to go to school. A lot of kids don't. Their school is their only way out of their bad home life, and if you cut these people, the kids are not going to want to go to school, and then our district just gets even worse. And it shows that students, where there's a lack of teachers, their performance is lower. And if we want to get better, we need to have more teachers, because I've been in classrooms where it's 30 plus kids. One teacher, there's not even enough chairs for all of us to sit. And you can see the teacher doesn't have enough time to spend one-on-one on each. It turns out it's students teaching students, when it shouldn't be like that. It should be the teacher. So it just increases more pressure on the teachers we have left. They have to pick up where they had two teachers doing the job. Now it's one teacher doing the job of two people. It's not right. They're not getting paid more or anything. And also on the long term, our kids, if we're really about kids, we should be focusing on their education and their outcome. If they're not getting the proper education, how are they going to move up economically, socially, and all these things? They're just going to remain in poverty. And also, we don't even have enough teachers right now. When I was in high school, we only had two actual in-person math teachers. One math teacher was only here two times a week. Yeah, and it's not right. It's like, how are we supposed to, if we're really about the kids, why are we finding the only people that can actually help them? And yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Last but not least is Esther Vassy. She's speaking on the allocation.
Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Esther Patsy and I've been here since 2005. I love Newport, it's my home away from home. I am currently the Newport Teachers Association president, and honestly, I'm heartbroken to stand before you tonight and have to have this discussion. Tonight, I'm coming to you not only as NTA president, but I'm representing every teacher and every staff member in this district. We've come together and we need you to really listen to what we have to say. You've had a tremendous amount of information presented to you tonight, but I have a few questions for you. While the spending was taking place, who's been monitoring the budget? When Mr. Middleton left, there was more than a $6 million increase with money left over. It was a surplus. When ESSER money was being used, where was the oversight? When those employed by the district who don't work with students continue to take trips without anything being brought back to teachers and students, where was the oversight? What was the purpose? When over $230,000 was being spent on educational epiphany, knowing full well we were in a financial crisis with the budget, where was the oversight? We constantly change programs without keeping anything long enough to even know if it works. What is our curriculum department at the district level doing? Where do they spend their time? It certainly isn't in the high school. It's not with our instructional coaches. Our instructional coaches haven't had a meeting since September. I urge you to leave no stone unturned. Investigate everything. We have a gifted coordinator without kids being serviced at all. When cuts are being made at the building levels, and no one is willing to answer the question of what's being cut at central office, keep in mind, they're not the ones working with students. This is not the way it should work in public schools. This is not the way we get test scores up. We need to keep teachers and support staff. One other request we would like to make is having teachers on a committee that works with the board to make suggestions about what should be cut. In closing, and it breaks my heart to do this, Madam Chair, when the superintendent selection committee came to you and we forwarded names to you, the criteria was changed to ensure that our current superintendent would be considered. You failed our students, you failed this community, you failed our teachers. Please don't fail us again. We need a vote of no confidence from Mr. Watts.
Thank everyone for your comments at this time. We hear you. I want to acknowledge that the information that you sent to our board member, Ms. Studman, was forwarded to the board. The board is meeting on March the 12th. That is our planning meeting. At this time, we're gonna be reviewing all positions. The board can only create and eliminate positions. Filling those positions is left to the superintendent and the principals. We do not fill positions, so I want to make that clear. So our job is to make sure that we have sufficient positions throughout the district, and I mean all positions, bus drivers, transportation, teachers, counselors, leadership, whatever is needed to effectively run the district is our responsibility. So on March the 12th at 6:30, we will have our planning meeting, and on that agenda is to look at all positions, duties, and many positions are funded with different sources. So we'll be looking at how those positions are funded, whether it's Fund 1, which is general fund, or whether it's Fund 2, special funds. And so but at this time, no positions have been cut. The allocations is a tentative recommendation as set by KRA, and Mr. Watts will speak to that as we continue the menu. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for your concern and care, and many of you know me. I've been around a long time, have had children come in this district. You have a board here that is working countlessly to make the right decision. We're gathering information. We're talking to Mr. Watts regularly, asking for the information we need so that we can make the right decision for this district. So I don't want you to think that we're only looking at teachers. I'm not really sure how that happened, but we are not. The board will look at all positions in the district. And Mr. Watts has said that repeatedly himself. He said it at the last board meeting that all positions will be reviewed. All righty, so we will continue the meeting. Next on our agenda is the minutes from our last two meetings. Minutes from January the 22nd and February the 12th. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Any questions or comments or corrections? If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of January the 22nd and February the 12th. It's been moved by Mr. Davis. Second by Ms. Covington. All in favor?
February meeting because I was not at the January 22nd meeting.
All right, let the record show that Mr. Curl abstained from voting because he was not at the meeting. The February, the January meeting. Okay, next we have the treasurer's report. Ms. Knapp.
The revised December bank reconciliation and then the January paid invoices for your approval.
Review the January and December bank reconciliation statement.
Any questions for our treasurer? If not, I need a motion to accept the bank reconciliation for January and December and file for audit. It's been moved in second. All in favor? Okay. Next, we have the January invoices. Any questions regarding the invoices for January?
On page 4 of the paid invoice reports, fusion registration.
will have to actually look into that and see what that is exactly, just because I don't know. off the top.
You said that was on page 4? Oh, okay. That was, isn't that NWEA, the Houghton Mifflin Company? So we have someone that registered for that? Okay. Is anyone, Mr. Watts, anyone on your staff can speak to that registration? It's coming, it looks like the vendor is the Houghton Mifflin Company, which I believe was formerly NWEA, is that right? No, that's not who bought them. It looks like it's probably some type of registration for, the code is 310 LN. Isn't that one of the special funds? Title.
LM, what you're asking for, I believe, is one of our private schools. So that would be registration for the private schools. We do we consult the private schools at the beginning of the year. So much of our federal funding actually goes to private schools. So if you have a Newport resident and they are enrolled in a private school and they qualify for free and reduced lunch, that generates federal funds for that private school. That private school can decide to participate with Newport. The other option, when we speak of private schools, would also be those private schools that are housed within the city limits of Newport. And so we do have, I believe it is 3 different private schools that are participating for the fiscal year 25, and that is 310L. That's just how the fund itself is named, how that project is named. And they are going to be attending a conference. I can also tell you coming up there is another conference that they will be attending this summer as well. And that's how they decided to spend their private school funds.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any more questions regarding the invoices? If not, I need a motion to pay the invoices. It's been moved. It was motioned by Ms. Covington and second by Mr. Davis. All in favor?
Kind of large. Use your outside voice.
Okay, let's see. Next on the, all the other information on Ms. Snap's report is for information only. There's no action required by the board. Any attachments that any of the board members want to speak on or have questions on? All right, we'll move on. Next is Student Learning and Support Services, Mr. Watts.
Well, tonight, I'm bringing to you, and we discussed this in the planning meeting, to approve the applications for the schools. And I want to remind you and everyone that this is not a final allocation. This is what's required by law, 702 KAR. That's Kentucky Administrative Regulations 3246. Section 2 says the local school district shall provide notice to school councils of a tentative allocation by March 1 and notice of updated allocation by May 1 of each year. So that means by March 1, we have to have minimum requirements to the schools. And then later on, if the schools request more, they can do that. So again, what we do tonight is not final. So I want everybody to realize that we are going to be looking at cuts everywhere. If someone asked the question, why do we have to do the schools now? Because law says we have to have that by March 1st. Final allocations for everybody have to be done by May 15th. So if anybody's going to be cut, they have to be notified by May 15th, and that's by law. Now, we as a district have been notifying people by spring break. We've been doing that since we've been here. And we feel that's fair to people if they're not going to be renewed. That gives them time to go out and start looking for a job early enough. So that's something that we will do. Now, in the past, we've had funds and we knew where we were. We had extra funds, a lot of title monies. So we knew up front what we had. So we were able to give the schools everything and they didn't have to come request much from us, even though they did come back and we added some things when they made their requests. So this year, we are where we are. We got to make some cuts. So this, again, is the tentative allocation that's due by March the 1st. Principals will come back to me with a rationale on why they need more positions. We'll bring that to you all as a board. They will present to you any rationales that they may have, and then we will decide, yes, you can have that position, or no, we can't justify that. So again, I just want to reiterate what we're doing tonight. It's not final. We have a lot more work to do. As Ms. Malone said, come March the 12th, we will bring to that work session cuts from everywhere, and we hope we'll have a better idea of where we are as a district and what cuts we need to make sure we make the budget work. Now, I gave you all the allocation sheets last time, and I just want to go over it once more tonight for each school and give you an idea where the schools are this year. So in the kindergarten classes this year, the most any class had was 22. So the cap is 24. First grade cap is 24. The most anybody had was 20. Second grade cap was 24. Most anyone had, one class had 24. I got these numbers from the principals, I guess was last week. At the intermediate school, third grade cap is 24. So one class had 24. The others were under that. Fourth grade cap was 28. The biggest class there was 22. In the fifth grade, cap was 29. Biggest class was 22. Sixth grade cap was 29, and the largest class was 26. So, you know, we've been well below cap sizes this year. Now, the high school is a different monster. They have so many different classes. Let me pull them up. So depending on the class and their cap size, as far as the state goes, they can cap that at 31 for the high school, and that's 7 through 12. Now, we as a district don't do 31. We do 25. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Yeah, we cap it at 25. So the state caps 31. As a district, we use 25. So they're not nearly at the 31. Now, some classes in the high school, according to last week's numbers, The largest class had 27. And again, there are many classes in high school with all of the electives and things. And then the lowest class number, according to last week's numbers, we had 4 students in some classes. So again, it's way below the ratios. And for this year, we follow what the ratios say, and that's how we base our allocations. So we take the predicted enrollment, and that's the number we get from the DPP's office based on trends. So we're expected to have 100 kindergartners. Now that number may change, and if it does, school will come back to us and say we need another teacher, which that happened last year, and we provided that. So 100 kindergartners is predicted. The ratio is 1 to 24, so we're giving the school 5 teachers. First grade, 105 is predicted. Ratio is 24, again 5 teachers. Second grade, 98. We're giving that second grade 4 teachers, so that's a total of 14 teachers. Now we give the school an assistant principal and a counselor, and we're doing art, music, and last meeting we talked about possibly doing a half of PE and sharing that with the intermediate school. I talked to the principals. They didn't seem to think that would work, so we're going to give them a full PE teacher. So they're going to get 1 art, 1 music, and we're doing art, music. And then, of course, the kindergartners need aides, so as many teachers as they have, then they're going to get that same number of aides. So that's the primary school. For the intermediate, same thing, we base it on predictions. Predicted to have 105 third graders, 24 ratio, we're going to give them 5 teachers. 113 fourth graders, give them 4. Now their ratio is 28. Fifth grade, 77, the ratio is 29, we're going to give them 3. And sixth grade, ratio is 29, predicted to have 82 students, so they get 3 also. For the additional certified staff, assistant principal, right now 1 guidance counselor, art, PE, and music. And again, we changed the half of PE to 1 whole. And then the principal decided she wanted a behavior intervention, so we're giving that. So that's the intermediate. Now for the high school, ratio, again, state ratio is 31, we're doing 25. 7th grade, there's predicted 96 students, so we're giving them 4 teachers. If we follow the state ratio, that would be 3. 8th grade, 84 predicted, giving them 4 teachers. If we follow the state ratio, that would be 3. 9th grade, 93 teachers. If we follow the state ratio, that would be 3, but we're giving them 4 based on our ratio. 10th grade, 96, they get 3 teachers. 11th grade, expected 87, 3 teachers. 12th grade, 75, 3 teachers. Additional staff, we're giving an assistant principal, 2 guidance counselors, 8 discretionary certified staff, that's 1 business teacher, 1 carpentry, 1 media arts, 1 family consumer science, 1 art, 1 music, 1 drama, 1 health, 1 half health, 1 half PE. Then for additional classroom teachers, they decided to keep the pathway, so we're filling that. So again, I want to reiterate, this is just something we have to do by March 1st. This does not mean that we can't add additional staff. Once we look at everything, once we look at all of the cuts, we'll know exactly where we are Then the principals can come back to us with a rationale on why they need positions. And if the board feels that's necessary, then you guys can approve that. So that's all I have. Any questions? Right now, today, I have to go back and look at that. I think if I remember correctly, and I'm going off of my thoughts now. Hold on, let me look it up so I can give you an exact number. So for Newport Intermediate School, last year they had 31 total allocated staff, and this year it'd be, right now, today, 23. So that'll be 8. For the high school, last year total they had 44, and tonight that'll be 35, so that'll be 9. And for the primary, last year they had 31, this year's 27, so that's 4. And again, this is just tonight. This does not mean that this is what they're going to end up with when we start school next year. They can come back to us, telling us why they need whatever positions, and if we choose to add that, then they'll get more.
We got a couple questions over here, actually. Questions? Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Watts, you have our board report. Are there any questions?
Target support improvement with CSI. Can you kind of elaborate on what's going on in it? You see impact.
The TSI, the targeted support, is for our intermediate school, our elementary school, and for the middle school. Normally, you don't get much support from KDE. In the past, we had somebody maybe come once a quarter, but they've allotted for us to have somebody come once a week now. So somebody from KDE is coming once a week to work with us, to analyze data, to work with teachers. They've been involved in PLCs in the intermediate school. So we have more support from KDE now than they normally give for TSI. So we had an opportunity to participate in a 2-day or 3-day conference with Northern Kentucky, NKCES, Northern Kentucky Cooperative.
They were able to fund all of the expenses paid for this. We are implementing the high reliability schools. And we're also looking at the research that's tied to it, designed to empower our educators. We are looking at the framework that's tied to the roles and the goals of the superintendent. As you can see on the second page in our board report, we're looking at the safe, supportive, and collaborative culture. We're also looking at ways to embed that into our PLC process and our learning communities, looking at shared literacy, best practices to create a community where every student is encouraged to become a confident reader and writer. Also, pillar 2 of that is effective teaching in the classroom. So research-based strategies to deliver high-quality instruction. We're also looking at that in terms of looking at effective literacy tailored to meet the diverse needs of every student in our district. A guaranteed and viable curriculum is also a part of this, which includes our standards of literacy, as well as the curriculum, and every student with reading and writing materials, instructions necessary to master those key concepts and skills. Additionally, we're looking at the standards reference reporting, looking at ways to monitor and report out the progress, which is very crucial for those targeted literacy interventions. And then we're also looking at, as the Newport Independent School District, is the way we track the students' growth and how we identify those areas of improvement and adjust instruction accordingly. The last piece of this is the competency-based education. We're looking at that personalized learning to ensure that all of our students progress at a pace that meets their individual literacy needs. So we have been working in our PLCs to ensure that these things are aligned to the work that we're not only doing just with the high reliability schools, but also with the work of Dr. Dickey with Educational Epiphany. I'm sorry. Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the board, you have a copy of the DPP report for February. I do want to give you one update that is not in here. The Department of Education has rescheduled their SEEK Roadshow. It is now going to be March 19th. It is going to begin at 9 o'clock in the morning. It is for superintendents and finance directors. I believe our superintendent and interim finance director intend to participate in that, and I will be going as well. And that will be at NKCES, and there will not be a charge for that.
Say those acronyms for our audience, what those acronyms stand for.
So the Northern Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service is NKCES.
I'm sorry, what is it?
No, I'm sorry, it's the regional cooperative. SEEK is our, you would ask me for the exact on that, support education excellence in Kentucky.
Any questions for the student report?
Yes, we believe that is due to attendance. If you think about attendance month 5, that began, and attendance month in Kentucky is made up of 20 instructional days or 20 school days. Some of those are instructional. If teachers have a teacher work day, something like that, those are added in to create that 20-day calendar. So what's interesting about month 5 is it begins on December 16th and it ended on January 23rd. When we look at this, during that time period, within the district, we had 2,161 parent notes for illness. We also had 987 medical notes across the district. And I'm gonna flip back real quick. During that time, we also had non-traditional instruction, NTI, on January 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. So those were NTI days as well. And I will say that it is very difficult for children, for staff, for school employees, for all of us, when you are in district on a Monday and on a Tuesday or Wednesday, you have NTI. And then on a Thursday, you have in-person learning. That is very difficult. I am proud of our teachers. I am proud of our students for the attendance that we do have. So please take that in mind. We did have quite a bit of illness. We are continuing to see that illness. And when we look at attendance rates and when we look at chronic absenteeism, it's not the same students. So kids that maybe were sick in January, we're seeing different kids ill now. So we continue to monitor that, but we did have a spike in January for flu type A. We were seeing a lot of parents reporting that, so we did have a closed day or a move to non-traditional instruction then as well. We were still, 93% at the primary, 94.37 at the intermediate, 91.59 at the high school, and overall in the district that did fall to 93.13. So in attendance months 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, we've really got to be pushing, our students to be here. I know our facilities director back in November and again in December, it's something that continues, but really upping those cleaning protocols, because when our parents send their kids to school and they get sick, and then maybe 2 or 3 days later they get sick again, that's a concern for parents as well. So just ensuring that we are keeping our facilities clean. They have been using the Clorox 360 machines, and we are fortunate that we do have our health center, and we also have a registered nurse in each of our schools. Yes, we do have a registered nurse at each of our schools every day of the week, unless they have to take a day off. At that point in time, if as an employee, if they have a family emergency, if they have bereavement, if something has occurred, like all employees, they do have those built into their contracts like all employees. At that point in time, we are covering with our current nursing staff. So we are not at this time calling in subs for our nurses. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I can't speak highly enough of the work that our nurses do, whether it's a school-based health center, whether it's having a registered nurse in each building, but absolutely. That's something that we've talked about. They do have a list of, I believe there are 20 items on the list, and actually teaching proper hand washing is number one on all of those lists. Making sure, and I will go into proper hand washing, but I've got a video I'd love to show. I will tell you, you didn't ask, and I don't want to take up a lot of time of your time, but I did include the hold harmless amounts in here for Title I. We received that on January 23rd. We went ahead and sent it out to principals on January 23rd. Please understand, our hold harmless, this is kind of our guarantee between the federal government and your local education agencies of what types and how much money you can expect to be receiving to educate students with your Title I funds. And so we receive these numbers from the census. These numbers come from the Census Bureau, and they are provided to the state. The state then sends them to us. I have that entire document if you'd like to see what all included. I will tell you that I reached out on that day to our KDE consultant. They did not have an update for us that week, obviously. That was the week of the inauguration. I reached back out on February 14th when we were planning for our next Title I meeting with the schools. And I reached out the day before last Thursday. I can't remember that exact date, but had another good long conversation with our KDE consultant. We simply do not know what federal funds are going to look like. I have put that information in here. For years across the nation, we have been told that if you don't use your Title II, you're going to lose your Title II. So as of right now, we believe that there is the potential elimination there of Title II funding, and that's not Newport, that's everybody. Title III is something that, and just to be clear, Title II, those are professional development funds, and you are using those for maybe teachers that are struggling, maybe you're new teachers. There are hundreds of items that would fall within that, and I'm happy to provide that. It is also openly available on the Kentucky Department of Education's website. Title III did surprise me because those are the funds that we use for our English learners. And I did not, when this information went to the principals, I did not include a Title IV allocation for them because right now I wanted it to be bare bones. But there is the potential that we would have Title IV funding. Okay, and Title IV that's well-rounded education. So there are lots of different things that fall within that, everything from health and wellness to science to technology, lots of different options. So this would be their bare bones, but again, this is simply on the basis that if the U.S. Congress allocates funds, this is their guarantee to us what the hold harmless would be. Simply that, holding harmless. That is, so say for example on this, based on our census numbers, they are guaranteeing us that we would receive 90% of that funding. So then we calculate based on that percentage that they give us, and I actually have that entire document. To where they give every district in the state what their hold harmless percentage would be. So I double checked a few minutes ago, just looking to see if we had any type of confirmation on the Department of Education at the federal level. We do not, as of me speaking with you. So there's really nothing more that I can give you on federal funding until our federal government takes action. Okay, thank you all.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening. Later this evening, I am requesting, the Stewart and I are requesting that you approve the SRO MOU. We actually discussed this at the last meeting, so I just wanted to remind you, we have had the discussions about this. Brandon did review the contract as well, so again, I just want to establish that we've already gone through that. So that is one request that we have for this evening. You have a copy of my report. Do you have any questions?
Since less than last year, that's good. Small drop in the bucket, but so all of us are together. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Davis is referring to the reduced cost in our utilities. The highlight of that really is the partnership that we've had with Stand Energy since about a year and a half ago. We entered that agreement with them, and we've saved over $14,000 with our natural gas in some of our buildings. So that is something I think is something to be proud of, and to give a little extra way back to our general fund.
Questions for Mr. May?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you have my report. Do you have any questions?
What would you share with everyone about the games?
Yes, we had 5 students participate in the Winter Games on January the 27th. Pardon me, the other mic, this one. Our 7 students that participated, they are Zachary Howard. He was in the intermediate giant slalom. He won a gold medal. His time was 26 seconds. Ricky Tomlinson, intermediate giant slalom. He won a gold medal and a silver medal. Marty Varias, intermediate slalom, intermediate giant slalom. He won 2 silver medals. Chad Wells, beginning slalom and beginning giant slalom, gold medal for the beginning slalom and silver medal for the giant slalom. Kelsey Turner, a beginner giant slalom, she was participating that day. Earlier in the week, she had to attend, I think, a bowling tournament. She wasn't able to actually compete during that day when the time trials were. I do want to say that our ski coach is Jennifer Packwood and Aaron Sutherland. Our support staff was Ryan Strong, Kate Nykirk, and community volunteers were Sharon Bresser and Chris Various. This event was a wonderful opportunity for our students to showcase their skills. Rarely did they fall, and they are becoming exceptional skiers, and they are competing and doing very well.
I know we have students in the program.
Yes.
Are they on this report?
Yes.
What type of-
The alternative service locations and the Restore program, we have 9 students. We have a private school student, 3 students at the School of Innovation and Campbell Regional Schools. We vary between 9 and 15 kids per day. 9 students. Yes. They rebranded.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Swanson regarding her report? All right, thank you. That concludes our report. Your reporting.
Next on the agenda is old business. There is none. And now we have new business. We have consent agenda items 1 through 12. Any items would the board like to further discuss before we take action? Any questions? Yes.
You know, I really appreciate all of you coming out tonight. It shows the strength of our district. we entrust you with educational needs, the social emotional needs of our students, and you should be able to rely on us to take care of you like you take care of them. I know that this is a right now tentative allotment, but I think it shortchanges you. Every one of you is important. You're important to our students, and we need all of you. And I have a child that actually says we need more of you. So thank you for everything that you do day in and day out. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Any more comments?
One more.
All righty. We have a resolution that we need to approve, and I will read it. A resolution of the Board of Education of Newport Independent Schools authorizing and approving the issuance of general obligation bonds, Series 2025, in principal amount of $1,465,000, subject to increase or decrease of up to $145,000. The bonds, the proceeds of which are to be used for a public school projects, authorizing the establishment of certain funds to provide for the collection to the extent required of the proceeds of a direct annual tax on a taxable property within the school district. In addition to all other taxes, authorizing the execution of the bonds and the disbursement of the proceeds thereof, authorizing the investment of funds pursuant to KRS 66.480, providing for delegation by the Board of Education of authority to the Secretary of the Board to determine certain matters relating to the bonds, and authorizing such other documents, agreements, and certificates necessary or required for the issuance of the bond. Any questions regarding that resolution? If so, Mr. Salisbury is here to answer any questions. And also on the agenda is the technology surplus. Mr. Maines, can you kind of speak to this for those new board members who may not be familiar with this process?
Here, actually, this is actually, but in general, both of our departments often surplus items that are either no longer used or irrelevant in our program of studies or anything within our day-to-day use. So at times we will have surplus items that are outdated, or sometimes we may run out of room. And so the process that we must follow is coming to you as a board to notify you that these items are extra and that we need your approval to surplus those. Once those are surplus, we can give them away, we can put them up for bid, they can be disposed of depending on what the item is and if there is any value in the item. So I'm not sure exactly what is on the technology surplus list right now, but Mr. Adams, if you want to expand on that, you're welcome to.
So most of what's on that list is really, really old networking equipment that's been in various cabinets and shelves, or 8-9-year-old desktop computers that can't take any updates or horribly slow to do work. Basically, when it's so broke that we can't use it for anything but a doorstop, we'll put it on that surplus list so it can be removed from the inventory, because some of that was purchased with E-rate and obviously board funds, and it was all asset tagged. So then after the board approval, typically we will pay for, or we'll get a little bit of money by sending it out for e-recycling, where they will securely wipe any hard drives or destroy them so there's no sensitive data still on there that we might have missed, and also keep some of the heavy metals out of the landfill.
Any questions? Thank you.
Any questions regarding the amended calendar for 4/25. Calendar for 25-26. We have the monthly budget analysis contract with Maddox and Associates, our auditor. But I have had a conversation with our board attorney, and he has recommended that we table that for now and revisit it later. Any objections? So I need a motion to remove consent agenda item number 11 from the agenda. It was moved by Tim and second by Ed. All in favor? Okay, now, if everyone's okay with the agenda, the consent agenda, I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 11. It was moved by Tim. I need a second. Second by Ms. Covington. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? All right. May I have a roll call vote, please? Yes. Okay, let the records reflect the vote. And next on the agenda is board comments. Mr. Davis, tell me something good.
Okay, I'd just like to say that, this is a tentative budget, and though you may not see all the work that's going on, there's work going on. And we are working hard to make sure that our district is successful and that our students reach the highest levels they can possibly reach. And I want to thank everyone here in the community for coming out, for all the teachers who were here. It's going to take each and every one of us to get through this. It will take our whole community. And we need our community to come to us, come with us, and support our schools. We need our teachers to be here. Everyone who lives in this community, your shirts say Newport. We need each and every one of you. And teachers, we're here for you, but we're here for the students, and we will make this work. We'll get through this, and we'll come out the other end better and more efficient in operation. Thank you to everyone who's here this evening. This really means a lot to all of us. Thank you.
Any more comments? Tell me something good.
I just want to say as well, I've been in Newport all my life. Both my kids graduated from here, and I've been an educator for 40 years. So I'm never going to do anything that reduces faculty, teachers, unless it's absolutely necessary. I want you to understand, we have this planning meeting coming up. There've been multiple things that various ones of us have presented to talk about. So we're going to not just look at teachers, we're going to look at everything and see where we can cut this down to where it needs to be, but provide the best education we can. Because I know it got me where I'm at. It got both of my children there, and probably everybody here has had children graduate from Newport and be successful. So we're not here just about, well, let's cut a bunch of teachers and then move on. That's not what we're about. So we're going to really look at this seriously. It may be a long meeting next week or a couple weeks. So thank you.
All righty.
Hi, everybody. First off, on March 11th, it's a Tuesday, the seniors are hosting a spaghetti dinner at the high school. It's a senior fundraiser for senior week, senior activities and stuff like that. So it is a family, I'm Abigail Rimbright. I'm a senior at Newport High School. That's my mom. I'm a student representative. I represent all the students at Newport. I'm also full-time at Gateway, so I'm at Gateway every day of the week. Well, I was at Gateway every day of the week. Now I'm there only Thursdays, but I'm doing all college classes there, all because of the school. So yeah, that's exciting. And then I graduate in May, so we're doing a senior dinner on March 11th. It's not a Tuesday. It's a Wednesday. They moved it. Sorry, guys. It's the 12th. It's a Wednesday. But I hope to see you all there. I'll send you all an email too. I was supposed to do that, but I'll do that. You'll be at the board meeting. You can come before. What time does it start? 5 o'clock. It starts at 5. You all can come get dinner and then come here. Okay. And second, I look out and I see all the teachers that I had growing up, and I've been here since I was in kindergarten. So I appreciate all of you. I appreciate my friends who came up here and told all of you all why you're so important. And I wouldn't be here without any of you all. I've had Miss Ogg since I was in 5th grade. I've had Miss Sully when I was in 5th grade. I've seen all of you all for so long, and the students appreciate everything that you all do. It doesn't go unnoticed by us, and we appreciate you all so much. I love you guys.
That was something, thank you. So I just wanted to say that I've had 2 students that have graduated from Newport, 2 that are still in Newport, so all of this impacts me and my family personally as well. We are here for you. We will do everything in our power to save as many jobs as we can. We will look at central office. We will look at programming that needs to be cut. We're doing the work to make sure that we have the teachers that we need for our students, because our goal is for all students to succeed. So that's it.
Well, this concludes our meeting. Thank everyone for coming. And I am very proud of the comments that our board made. I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Stuckman and second by Tim. All in favor? Aye.
Yoga.